how to respond calmly to passive-aggressive behavior. Have you ever had someone say something that sounded polite, but left you feeling oddly insulted? Like when a neighbor says, "Wow, you're brave to wear that color," or when your adult child chuckles and says, "Well, I guess you tried your best." At first, you're not even sure if you should feel offended. But later that night, you're lying in bed thinking, "Wait a minute, what did they really mean?" If you've ever been in a situation like that, where the words don't quite match the tone, and the smile hides a subtle jab, you're not alone. Passive-aggressive behavior is one of the most confusing, frustrating forms of communication we face, especially as we get older. And the truth is, it doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it's from people we care about, family, friends, even caregivers. It shows up in sighs, sarcastic comments, backhanded compliments, or that cold silence that speaks louder than words. As we age, many of us find our patience tested more often. We want peace. We want respect. And frankly, we've earned it. But when someone is being passive-aggressive, it can feel like your calm is under attack without warning. You don't want to snap back. You don't want to stew in silence either. So, what do? Let's talk about how to respond calmly to passive-aggressive behavior without losing your dignity, your energy, or your peace of mind. Because handling these moments with grace isn't about being weak, it's about being strong in a wiser, quieter way. The first thing I want to share is this: don't take the bait. That's what passive-aggressive people want. They want you to react, to get flustered, to argue so they can say, "Whoa, I was just kidding," or "You're overreacting." It's like they've tossed you a lit match, hoping you'll light the fire. But here's the secret: if you don't give them the fire, they lose control of the game. Next time someone makes a snide comment like, "I guess you finally got around to cleaning up," don't respond with a sharp tongue. Instead, pause. Breathe. Smile gently, not sarcastically. And say something neutral like, "Thanks for noticing." That's it. No fuel, no drama. Just a calm, disarming response that puts the weight of their words right back in their hands. The second thing is, notice the pattern, not just the moment. Passive-aggressive behavior isn't usually about you. It's a reflection of how that person deals with their own discomfort. Maybe your friend doesn't know how to express jealousy directly, so they joke about your vacation photos. Maybe your adult child is overwhelmed but doesn't want to admit it, so they criticize how you load the dishwasher again. Recognizing the pattern helps you detach. It doesn't make their words okay, but it does remind you that you're not the problem. And when you realize that, you stop internalizing the message. You don't walk away wondering if you're too sensitive or if you imagined it. You walk away grounded, knowing their behavior is about them, not you. Another powerful shift is to ask simple, calm questions when appropriate. Let's say someone says, "I'm fine, don't worry about me," but their body language says the exact opposite. Instead of pressing or ignoring, you can gently ask, "You sure?" Because it seems like something's on your mind. Say it without accusation. Say it like you care. Because maybe they want to talk, but they don't know how. Your calm presence can invite honesty, or at the very least, signal that you are not going to play the guessing game. Now, I know, this all sounds simple, but when emotions are high, it's hard. Especially when you're dealing with the same person over and over. But think of it like this: every time you choose calm over conflict, you protect your peace. And that's not a small thing. That's everything. Let me tell you a little story. A woman named Helen, in her late 60s, shared that her daughter-in-law would often make comments like, "Wow, you actually brought something healthy this time," or "Must be nice to have so much free time in retirement." At first, Helen would laugh it off. Then she'd cry about it at home. One day, after months of silent frustration, she looked her daughter-in-law in the eye and said, with a kind voice, "It sounds like something I'm doing is bothering you. I'd rather hear it straight from you than in little hints." That moment changed everything. Her daughter-in-law was caught off guard, but it opened a real conversation they'd never had before. Helen didn't accuse. She didn't explode. She simply named what was happening, and did it with grace. And in doing so, she took back her power without picking a fight. Sometimes, calling out the behavior gently is enough to stop it. Other times, you may just need to set a quiet boundary. Either way, it starts with choosing not to be pulled into the storm. You can stand in the middle of it and still be still. Let's keep going with this, because there's more we can do. There are ways to preserve your energy, set kind limits, and even shift the dynamic entirely without losing who you are in the process. Now, here's something that often gets overlooked. Your energy is precious. After a certain age, we realize that peace of mind is more valuable than winning an argument. You don't have time to decode cryptic comments or replay conversations in your head like a detective. And the truth is, you don't have to. What you can do, instead, is decide where your energy goes. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life, especially those who make you feel small with a smile on their face. So here's a simple mindset shift that helps. Respond for your own peace, not their approval. You're not here to fix them. You're not here to figure out why they act that way. You're here to take care of your own emotional health. That might mean saying less. It might mean choosing silence, not as a weapon, but as a soft shield. Not every comment deserves a comeback. Not every moment needs your explanation. Sometimes, walking away with your dignity intact is the greatest power move of all. But there will be moments where the behavior crosses a line. It's not just annoying, it's hurtful. It chips away at your self-worth. That's when setting a boundary becomes more than an option, it becomes an act of self-respect. Let's talk about boundaries for a moment. Not the harsh, don't talk to me like that again kind of boundary. I mean the clear, kind, steady kind that says, I value myself enough to not absorb your bitterness. If someone keeps making backhanded comments every time you share something joyful, you can say, I love talking to you, but those kinds of jokes make me feel a little dismissed. Can we keep it light? If someone forgets to include you in plans, and then makes a snarky remark about you not showing up, you might say, I'd love to be included next time, if it's important to you. Notice how those sentences are calm, but firm. You're not accusing. You're inviting respect. And if they refuse to give it, well, that says more about them than it ever will about you. Now I know, it takes practice. And courage. Especially when the person is someone close, your own child, a longtime friend, a sibling. But here's what I've learned, and maybe you felt this too, when we allow people to chip away at us slowly, with small jabs and fake smiles, it adds up. We start shrinking ourselves just to avoid conflict. We silence our joy. We second-guess our worth. You don't deserve that. Not now. Not after everything you've lived through, given, carried. So what if you didn't smile and nod next time someone said something laced with sarcasm? What if you just paused, looked at them for a second, and said nothing? That silence, that pause, can speak louder than any reply. It says, I see what you're doing, but I'm not playing that game. And sometimes, the most powerful response to passive-aggressive behavior is simply refusing to respond. Not out of fear, but out of power. Because your peace matters more than their point. Let me share a quick example. George, a retired mechanic in his 70s, told me about his weekly poker games with some old buddies. One guy always made little digs, guess George is late again, must be on senior time, or, careful, don't fall asleep mid-hand. It used to get under George's skin. He'd go home feeling embarrassed and irritated. One day, he brought it up, not with anger, just honesty. Hey Tom, I know you like to joke, but sometimes those comments feel more like jabs than laughs. I'd appreciate it if we kept it friendly. You know what happened? Tom was stunned, but he backed off. The joke stopped. The group felt lighter. And George? He felt like himself again. Not defensive. Not bitter. Just free. That's the beauty of calm courage. It changes things, not with a bang, but with a quiet shift in the air. A shift that says, I'm not here to fight. But I won't shrink for your comfort either. Now, some people may never change. They may keep tossing out those subtle darts no matter what. And in those cases, you get to decide how close you let them stand. You get to protect your emotional space the same way you protect your home. Politely. Firmly. Consistently. You don't need a dramatic confrontation. You don't need to cut ties with everyone who rubs you the wrong way. But you do need to recognize when someone's presence makes you feel uneasy more often than uplifted. And when it does, you step back. Not to punish them, but to preserve you. Let's keep going. Because there's one more layer to this, a powerful mindset that not only protects you, but also transforms how you see these people and yourself. Because sometimes, the person acting passive-aggressive isn't a stranger, isn't a friend, and isn't someone you can choose to step back from. Sometimes, it's family. Someone who's deeply woven into the fabric of your daily life. A child, a partner, even a sibling who's been part of your world for decades. And when that's the case, the hurt cuts deeper. You can't just walk away. But you can do something just as powerful. You can shift the way you respond, so their behavior doesn't define your emotional landscape anymore. Let's be real. There are some people who, no matter what you say, will never admit they're being unkind. They'll never say, "Yes, I was being unfair," or "Sorry I hurt you." But here's the truth, your healing doesn't need their confession. Your peace doesn't depend on their permission. You have the right to feel what you feel. To be confused, frustrated, even sad when someone you care about keeps throwing those subtle jabs. But after the feeling settles, you also have the power to choose. Do I want this moment to control my mood, or do I want to control my mindset? And that's where the real shift begins. What if, instead of absorbing their words, you treated them like mail not addressed to you? You see it arrive. You recognize it doesn't belong to you. And you simply set it down. No need to open it. No need to carry it. Because the truth is, passive-aggressive people are often carrying burdens of their own, unspoken pain, old disappointments, unmet expectations. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but it does explain some of it. And sometimes, understanding that can soften the edges of your reaction. It lets you respond from a place of calm strength rather than defensiveness. It gives you space to say, "That comment didn't feel great," or even just to smile and say nothing, knowing that not every battle is worth your breath. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that comes with age. A wisdom that doesn't need to win the argument. A wisdom that knows how to listen to a harsh voice and still keep your own steady. A wisdom that lets you draw the line, not in anger, but in clarity. You don't have to match their tone. You don't have to mirror their mood. And you don't have to carry the emotional weight they try to hand you. You can choose to be soft-spoken and still be powerful. You can choose kindness without being a doormat. You can speak truth with warmth and hold boundaries with grace. Let me leave you with one more story. Linda, a retired nurse in her 60s, had a friend named Carol who always made digs about her lifestyle. Must be nice to have nothing to do all day. Wow, spending your son's inheritance on travel again? For years, Linda tried to ignore it, chalking it up to jealousy. But it wore her down. One afternoon over coffee, Linda looked Carol in the eye and said, "I care about our friendship, but these little comments about how I spend my time, they sting. I've worked hard to get to this point in life, and I'd love to share the joy without feeling judged." Carol was silent. Then she said, "I guess I didn't realize how bitter I've been. I'm sorry." And just like that, the door opened. The dynamic shifted. Not overnight, but enough. Enough to feel like a weight had lifted. That moment only happened because Linda chose courage over comfort. Not yelling. Not silence. Just honest, kind truth. And you can do that too. You're allowed to speak up. You're allowed to set limits. You're allowed to walk away from games you never agreed to play. And most importantly, you're allowed to protect your peace, not just from loud, obvious drama, but from the quiet, subtle ways it gets chipped away. Because you've lived long enough to know, peace isn't something you find out there. It's something you build inside. One boundary at a time. One calm reply at a time. One act of self-respect at a time. So if you've been dealing with passive-aggressive behavior, whether from family, friends, or even strangers, I want you to remember this: you don't have to fix them. You just have to honor you. Your peace. Your truth. Your calm power. And if this message spoke to you today, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced this kind of behavior? How have you handled it? Let's talk in the comments. Your story might help someone else find their voice. And if this kind of content lifts your spirits, helps you feel stronger and sane, go ahead and like the video, and subscribe for more conversations like this one. You deserve a space that reminds you just how wise and capable you already are. Here's to protecting your peace, with strength, softness, and a heart that knows its worth. Always.